You haven't seen the what in the butt video?
Not that I know of.
I am going to change your life today.
One of the first TikToks I ever saw like a year and a half ago was the "Have you checked your butthole" guy. Have you seen that guy?
Mm-mm.
The guy who's like excited when people are like my roommate's looking for his keys, and I'm like, I don't say it yet. He was like, when he looks in the fridge, I don't say it yet. And when he says he can't find it, he don't say it yet. And then he's like, have you checked your butthole? Like he's like, it's like a really smooth like fun. It's so funny.
I haven't seen that one. No, but
we're gonna show it. I can't wait for us to show each other butthole related content later.
What in the butt was? I mean, it's old. I mean,
yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I guess in college maybe is when I started watching it. I don't think it was high school. Who knows? I'm an old man. If you're listening to this and what in the butt came out when you were in middle school, that's how you know I'm old. When I meet people, I'm like, hey, how old were you when what in the butt came out?
Previous generations had when JFK was shot, the moon landing, when Reagan tore down the wall, and now what in the butt? Where were you?
Nick, where were you when what in the butt came out?
Where were you?
We're men, okay? That means a few things.
Men sometimes have strange motives for the things they do.
But we are still proud. For if a man loses pride in manhood, he is nothing.
I'm a man. I'm sensitive.
Confronted with their true selves, most men run away screaming.
Isn't this a strange conversation for men who aren't crazy?
You make me want to be a better man.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, bud. It felt wrong.
No, I know, it's good. That was so good. Welcome to the Better Men Film Club, guys. If you're listening to this for the first time, welcome in. My name is Nick Flora. This is
Dave Gregory.
It sure is. He's always on time, you guys. His timing is impeccable. This is the podcast where Dave and I use the lens of film to dissect, explore, and challenge the messaging and social conditioning that men have received in the last century, both the positive and the problematic, all in hopes to be better. It's not a mystery like this movie we're going to discuss today is how we want to be better. And much like this movie, about halfway through, we completely switch it up and you're like, wait, what was I listening to?
Hey, you know what I want to say right now, Nick?
Tell me.
Happy at current time, early, and by the time this comes out, belated birthday, my bro.
Thank you, my guy. That's right.
Do you know what your birthday shares this year? What day you're sharing your birthday with?
That sentence being coherent? What's up? What's up?
I know, it's so messed up. Do you know what's happening on your birthday this year?
What is happening on my birthday this year?
Oscar nominations are being announced.
Oh, that's right. I got really excited about that. That happens like every once in a while, and I get really
once every 1,000 years, actually.
This. Oh man, yeah. This is the 1,000th and first Oscars. The first. They're okay. Anyway, I can't go on with that bit any further. Just because I'm morally opposed to it. But I will say that I am excited, and I really do hope. I don't really believe in this stuff, but I really hope that it landing on my birthday is a sign that Everything Everywhere All at Once will be nominated a ton. And that is my hope for Best Picture. I really hope it has a Parasite type sweep. Because I think it freaking deserves it. I watched it again the other night.
Absolutely.
That movie's amazing. But yes, it is. Oscar nominations come out as of the recording of this episode. We don't know what they're going to be. We kind of, a lot of movies are being talked about. I want to see a Brendan Fraser in there. These are my birthday wishes.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Oh, I want to see a Brendan Fraser win so bad. Like
Fraser, like Razor.
Yeah, Fraser, like Niles Crane.
I just heard him say. I thought that I heard him say it was Fraser, but recently on like Vanity Fair or something, he was like, "It's Fraser, like Razor." Oh, he's winning some awards and he's starting to correct people now. I appreciate it. Yeah. Hey, dude,
he is standing up for himself. You. Like I don't remember the last time when something like so wholesome like Brendan. I said his first name wrong now. Brandon Fraser.
Fritz Baser.
I get his last name right, but I can't say Brendan. When Brendan Fraser. You guys know him from the film Airheads. When he came out,
dude, how good is Airheads? Though?
I love Airheads.
It's so
Steve
good.
Buscemi, Adam Sandler, incredible. But when with every single thing that he does, it seems like all the interviews he's doing for The Whale seem to be getting memed, and they're not even like funny memes; they're like wholesome memes.
Yeah.
Like he is just like that one thing where he does that one Zoom interview where he's like, I had no clue that there was so much support for me. Like I didn't know that people were rooting for me.
It's so beautiful. I'm pretty sure the only person who's not rooting for him is that Golden Globes guy that sexually assaulted him like a decade ago or whatever.
Yeah. I am a little upset that I don't know his name only because I just want him to be called out a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Because man, I really am. I can't remember the last time that where an actor came back. I mean, even with the Mickey Rourke thing with the wrestler, it was nice to see, but he's not a beloved figure. Brendan Fraser, like the generation that he helped, like not raise necessarily, but he felt like the cooler brother, you know, to a bunch of us. Like he was in so many movies back to back to back that were so good.
Dude, that's what's so crazy. Like he literally, he really was like, he was Tom Cruise for a minute. Like during that run with like The Mummy, all of those movies, like he was, I mean, literally Tom Cruise replaced him in that franchise later on. Like, you know what I mean? Like in the reboot of it or whatever. But it's wild to have been given, like, I remember being a kid, again, because I had much older sisters, 6 and 9 years older than me, like watching School Ties when I was in elementary school. And like, I remember that movie very vividly. Shortly after that, Encino Man.
Yep.
George of the Jungle, right around the time I was in elementary, middle school and stuff like that. Blast from the Past around the same time. Then during then all those blockbusters, and then around like college age, him coming back in during Scrubs and all of that stuff. And then some of the really weird movies towards the end of high school, like Monkey Bone. Like, it's just like the range this guy has and the amount of things that he did was unbelievable. Was he actually? Was he the one in that Liz Hurley movie about her being the devil?
Yeah, Bedazzled.
Bedazzled. Yeah.
Yeah. Which was like, just, I don't know. I don't know whether that movie's good or not, but like Brendan Fraser is good in everything. Like he's so fun to watch.
Elizabeth Hurley was like an absolute, still is, but like total goddess. And so like, yeah, that movie's
fun to watch
and so watchable.
Yeah, because he's so fun to watch. And you're right, like in movies like Airheads, movies like what was that other one he did around that time? Maybe Blast from the Past is what I'm thinking of.
Blast from the Past might be the only other movie I really love Alicia Silverstone in, aside from
Batman
the
and
Holy
Robin,
Grail.
obviously. Do you remember Excess Baggage with her and Benicio del Toro? Isn't that what it is? I remember liking that one. But yeah, I know what you're saying. But
I remember liking that one, but I think seeing pieces of Excess Baggage later on and being like, oh, this was never good.
Yeah,
like that was like high school brain Dave thought like, oh, what a cool indie film. And then you grow up and you're like, this was
same thing with like A Life Less Ordinary with Cameron Diaz and Ewan McGregor. There's like it's like post Train Spotting, post Pulp Fiction. People were just like, I don't know, like there was even like people were trying to do this whole thing, indie cinema thing, and we're missing the point of what actually makes indie cinema interesting. Like what was that?
Miramax was writing a lot of checks.
Yeah, they were. That 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag with Joe Pesci and you know,
my god, yeah.
David Spade, our friend David Spade, but
Dave Spadoodles. Hey, are we gonna do an episode next week where we talk about the Oscar nominations and what we think about them?
Yeah, totally. We will do.
We just decided that right now.
Let's do a Oscar shit shooter.
We totally should have done a predictions thing. We don't have time now because I want to get in the Glass Onion.
Isn't it wild that it's been a full year since the Oscar slap? That's insane, dude. That's really
that actually is pretty wild. You know what the craziest thing about that is we were doing this podcast when that happened.
Yeah,
and that means we've stuck with this for a year.
I completely blanked on the fact that we've been doing this for a year.
Yeah.
That's really wild to think about. Oh, I guess the Oscars weren't until March, but like the nominations are coming up.
Yeah, okay.
That's
fine.
true. I was like, wait a second, that doesn't compute because I marked down that March was going to be our 1 year anniversary. So look forward to something. Oh my gosh.
What?
Dave.
It's because we're the Better Men Film Club.
You get it, guys? We're men.
You get it? We're men. You guys yell at us about it all the time because 70% of our listenership are women. And most of y'all get the fact that we're not trying to exclude you, but a couple of you guys are really loud about it. Sorry.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to talk about Knives Out, but like first I want to talk about expectations leading into it because we talked about
Glass Onion because we talked about Knives Out last week.
Knives Out presents. Well, it's Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. Yes, sorry, thank you. I was gonna say so we both love Knives Out. It was this. We talked about it last week, but it came out. It was this total like. It was refreshing. It felt fresh. It still does, but it's based on like an old idea, like the Agatha Christie mystery novel, The Whodunit, which is as old as like storytelling, right? It's Shakespearean, this whole, thing. So that's still fun. There is, it's not recency bias. What's the thing where it's like, well, now I have whatever the sequel, it's like sophomore slump, right? Whatever the sequel is, now I have like a reference point for this.
So your expectations are a little higher. Yeah.
and now we've had 3 years for Knives Out to become, I'll say it, like a modern classic. Like there are people there are literally people trying to make Knives Out movies, like the whole like whatever those movies are with Neil, what's his face, like he's a mustachioed dude on a boat, who's supposed to be the Benoit Blanc. You know what I'm talking about?
I sure don't.
I really hoped you could get me there.
Are you talking about the Murder on the Orient Express and the sequel to that
thank
one?
You. Oh my god.
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
Like those types of movies. I watched the
Poirot or whatever that guy's name is. Yeah.
Yes. Which he is like an Agatha Christie character, like a literal.
Yeah, like an actual one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I watched those movies and they're fine, but like so like this is becoming.
I'll be honest, they're not. Murder on the Orient Express was horrible. That was such a shit show of a movie, and I didn't watch the sequel because.
Why would you? Why would you? I watched it because Gal Gadot. I'll literally like we'll just watch Gal Gadot. But so like incredible. Leading into this for you, are you excited to watch this? But also kind of like, how's this going to be? Do you trust Rian Johnson if he's not making a Star Wars movie? Like, where's your like head going into this, and how do you let that actually like inform or not inform your opinion of it? Because I have a hard time with it.
No, that's really well said. I for sure a couple things. I'm trying to think of how to answer that. I hate this about me. I still get annoyed about the hype around certain things.
Me too.
And so like when I was very annoyed. I love cinema. I love movie theaters. I support them like crazy. Yeah. I'm like addicted to the Alamo Drafthouse. There is no other theater for me as far as I'm concerned. And when Knives Out came out, I think was it Thanksgiving or Glass Onion around Thanksgiving in theaters. People were like, oh, I'm gonna see it in theaters. I'm gonna see it in theaters. I'm gonna see it. And so many people were looking down their nose at me because I was just gonna wait to see it for free. But I'm just like, dude, I'm sorry. Honestly, I'm 36. I'm pretty busy. Like me and my wife have a loaded calendar. We're recording 2 of these podcasts a week, and we have a bunch of other stuff that we're doing. Like I'm gonna if I can watch it for free the week between Christmas and New Year's, I'm gonna. And I'm so happy y'all are going to go see it in theaters, but I got so annoyed by that narrative that it was like I caught myself kind of like transferring some of that sourness to I was just, I'll watch it when I get to it. Like, you know what I mean? I was kind of annoyed by that. In terms of the movie itself, I think I went in with really, really, really high expectations. Not even necessarily that it was going to blow me away, but like the way that Knives Out says, "Ooh, this is a whodunit," and then 25 minutes in, they tell you who done it, and then it just becomes a different movie. I was like, okay, well, how is he going to do that this time? And honestly, I wasn't wrong. He did it a little later in this movie. But I think because of that, I'll be honest, that did take some of my enjoyment out of it. I kind of, if I'm being honest, I thought it would be a stronger move to subvert our expectations by not subverting our expectations for once.
Like
M. Night for once, just make a movie.
Like the way M. Night was like twist ending, not twist ending. Like he was like, oh, you know, like it is. You're right. And I wonder if he'll do that with the next one. I wonder if he'll.
He didn't do it with Star Wars. Like I don't know why he would do it with this. You know what I mean? But I don't mean. I'm just being honest. Like with a massive franchise that had a lot of expectations, he didn't. So I'm like, I kind of just think that's what he does, and I don't. Like I appreciate that about him. Like he gives us really original films because of it. I loved Glass Onion for the record. I'm sounding very
me too.
Turned off to it right now. But yeah, I couldn't have had higher expectations because of this cast. I dare say like it's really hard to say that like we beat the last cast from Knives Out with this one. But like, dude, that cast was unbelievable, and this cast is like just unreal. Again, you're like, how the hell does he pull this off? And so, yeah, I was also very excited to see if and how Noah Segan would pop up in this one. And I have thoughts about if and how he popped up in this one as well. We can get to that. I'll save some of those thoughts. But yeah, I went in with very high expectations. I don't want to say 100% like which ones were met and which ones weren't. But where were you at with all of that?
And I'll also say like we're not going to spoil the actual plot of this movie, but we are going to talk pretty in depth about some stuff like we did with the Knives Out. We're not going to like give away the ending to the mystery of it, but we are going to talk about some explicit details of it. So if you haven't watched it, it's on Netflix for free, just like Dave said. So yeah, for me, I had a hard time getting excited about it. I was going to go see it in the theater. I don't think I realized it was only going to be in the theater for like a week. And then you had to wait a little bit. I really wanted to go to see it in the theater. I think it's just one of those things where it's hard to. It's the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 effect, where I'm like, I think if I didn't see the first one, I would have liked the second one. But like, it's just the second one all over. It's the first one all over again. Why don't I like it? Why do I need something new and different each time when the reason I like the first one is, you know what I mean? Like I want the same thing. I get annoyed when people change up things sometimes, and I get annoyed when they do the same thing. And I'm willing to call myself out on that like double standard.
I don't know what that is though, because I'm similar to you. I want to agree with you on that. At the same time, I've loved every John Wick movie. Not one of them has let me down. I'm tired of people going, "We don't need another John Wick movie." I've said it. Yeah, no, we don't need McDonald's either. But like, get over it. What do you mean we don't need? We're in America, dude. We don't need anything we have here.
Yeah.
Shut up. So with that whole deal, I'm like, there are some franchises that I go, they keep delivering the same thing. And I'm just happy. I'm just like, dude, I'll keep devouring it, and I love it. And then there are others that I think find new ways to surprise us. Like I hate to compare the two right now, but like Top Gun Maverick took something that was very familiar, gave us the same thing, but found a way to like elevate. I'm still not 100% sure if I feel like Glass Onion did that or not. I really enjoyed Glass Onion. It's a great movie, but I'm not sure if it Top Gun Mavericked me in terms of like
that's a good point.
The leap, you know?
Yeah,
that's
it
a
makes
bad
you think
analogy.
about one of my favorite franchises right now is the Mission Impossible franchise, and I don't need it to be anything other than what it is. Like, it's fun to watch what the next crazy thing is going to be that they're going to do. Crazy. There's always one crazy stunt. Like, I can't tell you the plot of any of those movies, and I've seen them 3 times all the way through. But and I think with this, I really went in being like, just let it be fun. Like, let it be like kind of like funny, clever. And I just wanted to watch Daniel Craig be this character again because I think this character is really fun.
Yeah, and that was super fun to watch. He delivered on that.
And it was, and very, I think he's even more Benoit Blanc in this than he was in the first one.
He really is.
Especially going back and watching Knives Out again, like he's way more like childlike. You really do see that this world is just a giant like crossword puzzle for him, and he's like just interested in like his brain being lit up because we see him at the beginning of this like playing. Like he's playing the video game Among Us with a bunch of, you know, there's so many cameos in this, it's insane. But like, I don't want to spoil all of them, but like with a bunch of like known mystery solver people. And that game Among Us is one that my kids love, which is like it's like who's the it's where like, oh, that's sus comes from or whatever. It's like who's the imposter. You have to like guess who the imposter is. It's kind of, it's so crazy how there are a lot of video games now. There's some in Fortnite, there's some in Among Us, which are literally just games that I used to play when night church would let out before my parents could leave church, where we were running around the lawn playing like you know, all these different games. They're now in video game form.
It's all iteration. Yeah,
it's all it is. But anyway, so coming into this movie, I if you just watch it as like, I want to watch a fun mystery that's just let it unfold and be what it is. It's super fun. It delivers on that level.
It is super fun with that. Now, I will say you can stop me if you're not ready to jump into this yet, but you touched on how Benoit Blanc is in this movie. We see a little bit more of his childlikeness, the fact that like the world is a puzzle. So yeah, it opens up. That doesn't open up, but when we see him first in the movie, he's in the bathtub. He's all depressed. He's playing Among Us. And I don't know if they're alluding to the fact that because of COVID or something like that or whatever, but like
I think so,
something about like, hey, he's been locked indoors for a long time now. He hasn't had a mystery to solve, and he's like depressed because of it. And I found that really interesting. I will say, like, I was a little, and then you hear a knock at the door, and it's like, hey, someone's at the door. They've got a box for you. And you're like, okay, so he's also getting a box. We just saw all of these other A-list celebrities get a box and get invited to someone's birthday party. The box was a puzzle they had to solve, and it invited them to some party. And now there's a box for him at the door. There's someone at the door with a box. That was cool. The movie never comes back to the fact that Benoit Blanc is like, who is this guy? He has a roommate or something. He lives with some other guy,
boyfriend or husband, or there's some kind of thing.
Something. Yeah, I guess I didn't pick up the fact that was romantic. It totally could be, but whatever it is, I'm like, I want to know about this guy. Like, I think that's something that the Benedict Cumberbatch Holmes did really well. Is it gets into the fact that like his relationships and how they're screwed up and what's going on with that, and what, like, it really kind of dove into the character a little bit more, of like the fact that, like, and I mean, Robert Downey Jr. did a tiny bit in the sequel of the Sherlock Holmes, where it deals with Holmes getting married and all that kind of stuff. But like the fact that, like, this guy has made his work everything, and if anyone messes with that, or work isn't coming in, or there's any change at all, he's a little autistic and he kind of can't handle the newness of things. He needs like this routine, this like incessant routine. So I would have loved to see a little bit more of that, and I was kind of bummed that it never came back to, what has this guy been doing since Knives Out? Literally sitting in this tub playing Among Us? Like, why is he so depressed? What is going on with him? What is what are his relationships like? I don't know. I just was very interested in, we've been using this like idiom a lot, or this phrase, this turn of speech, but like the Benoit Blanc of it all. You know what I mean? Like, totally. I want to know, like, what makes this guy tick? And we get to see, like, you can infer a lot about his character with the decisions he makes in this movie, but they never go back and actually dive into that. And I think, I hope that we get a third movie for this, and I really hope that he abandons. It kind of feels like, are we already getting it?
Yeah, Rian Johnson announced this week that his next movie is the next Knives Out movie.
Nice. So I really hope, it kind of feels like an SNL sketch where, like, you get Drunk Uncle, and you're like, oh my God, Drunk Uncle was brand new on Weekend Update. That was one of the best sketches ever, Bobby Moynihan. And then the second one comes along, and you realize his whole interview with Colin Jost is the exact same thing. It follows the same beats. It follows everything. They just change words out. And I'm not trying to disparage this movie, because it was excellent. It was expertly made, expertly written, expertly acted, but it also expertly followed the same template of Knives Out. And like, I really hope the third one abandons that and kind of dives into the Benoit Blanc character a little bit more, and can still be quirky and heightened reality and all that, but just give me more, you know?
It is interesting how Rian Johnson is kind of a, like, not black sheep of the same J.J. Abrams family, but he likes the mystery thing. He likes his films tend to be like original, but they also are like, it's refreshing, but also there is precedent, right? Which J.J. Abrams did really well with his films, where you're like, oh, I've seen this before, but this feels fresh. And so it's interesting how those two guys kind of like also worked with Star Wars, because there is a level here of Rian Johnson. I wouldn't put it past him if the next one is the 1, 2, 3 punch, where it's like, oh, I bet the next one's gonna be the same thing, and then he really punches us with something which is like, oh, okay, he was setting us up to mess with the audience, to be like, no, this one is gonna really subvert expectations, because we think we know what's coming now. You get cocky.
Because that's a good point, because to be fair, he does a similar thing that they do in Knives Out, where they go, okay, it's all going to be about this, and then halfway through the movie, maybe a little more than halfway through this time, they kind of reveal, hey, here's what's actually happening, like they did in Knives Out. And it was a little different. I didn't see it coming the way that it came. There was some stuff that like caught me off guard, but in spirit, it was the same thing. So I could see him saying like, oh, I'm going to change, I'm going to tweak it. And then the third one hopefully is actually different. I hope that's the case.
It feels like it's not beyond Rian Johnson to play the long game with the audience, you know?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see, but that definitely seems to be the next one he's going to make. And it's really fun to see all these people together. This movie, like Dave was saying, really the cast is completely stacked. Janelle Monáe, Catherine Hahn, Leslie Odom Jr., Kate Hudson, Dave Bautista, and then led by, other than Daniel Craig, Edward Norton, who plays this kind of like Elon Musk type tech genius man person who it seems very of the now. It's I wonder if this is going to be like, if it's going to age very well, or if it's going to be one of those things where it's like, in 10 years, you're going to be like, oh, this is very 2020 or 2021. Because the pandemic is mentioned, like just everything about it is very like, not that you can't have that time put in a time capsule, but it is crazy. We're only 3 years out from the beginning of COVID, not even yet, and in America. And it's crazy to think like just March to June of 2020 feels like, when I think about kindergarten, where it's like, oh, it was so wholesome. We were just all at home. You know, we were watching John Krasinski make a YouTube show, and like, it was just the weirdest. It's weird to like think back at that time. And this movie is just kind of a movie of that moment. But I mean, like Knives Out feels timeless. This feels like a little bit more of a time capsule, just because of all the circumstances that brought these people to this island, which is like the plot of the movie. So all these people get a box. It's a mystery box invitation to come to this island, this private island, which tech billionaire, disruptor, self-described disruptor, quote unquote, played by Edward Norton. And you find out as it goes along that all these people who, like, how the hell do they know each other, have all kind of started their careers together in various ways, where they all met in this bar, like seemingly during like college or something. And then they've all gone on to do something significant in their careers. Catherine Hahn is like a far left politician, seems to be like maybe, but not really. AOC, just seems to be like kind of in that realm. And then Leslie Odom Jr. is a scientist. Kate Hudson is this like just vapid influencer, like just like the worst person you've met, but an aging vapid influencer. So almost like an elder Kardashian type, where she used to be hot shit.
So great to see her though, man. So great to see her.
It really is. And it's so funny.
And Edward Norton is so fun.
No joke. And the fact that she is in this movie as an aging, like, former it girl is insane, because she looks incredible. Like,
it's unbelievable.
This woman is insane. But I understand, like, and also she used to be like, there was a point in time when she was the it girl, like in the early 2000s, post Almost Famous, like, and so she plays it fantastically. Dave Bautista is kind of this like right wing, kind of like Andrew Tate-ish, kind of like red pill theory kind of YouTuber. And they're all just kind of like coming together. And then Janelle Monáe is Edward Norton's kind of former partner, and they've had a falling out, to put it lightly.
I have to say, dude, I cannot get enough of Janelle Monáe.
Right?
I like every time I see her. She used to be in an Apple HomePod commercial, and like just her dancing to some song in that, I was like, who on earth? She is like magnetic, so unique and arresting. And I don't even want to make it sound like we talk about attractive women on this podcast a lot. I don't even mean it in that way. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I don't even mean it in that way where I'm just like, oh, God. I'm like, no, there's something so
her energy, man.
Like magnetic is a great word, but I'm 100%. Just like, I can't figure it out. And I don't know why she doesn't do more. I don't know if she's turning things down or what the deal is.
Yeah.
But it was so fun to see her. It seemed like such an interesting casting choice to me. You know what I mean? With like all of these, like this mix of very like the Dave Bautistas and the Kate Hudsons and the Edward Nortons and the like. It seemed like a mix of like very relevant people right now. Dave Bautista wants to stop being Drax. Yeah. And also a bunch of like currently, but also like formerly like beloved box office titans, and getting them all together for like, it's Rian Johnson has kind of found the right way to do movies like Valentine's Day and New Year's Eve, where they just crammed all these stars in them, but it's actually good. And Janelle Monáe, kind of like Ana de Armas a little bit in Knives Out, doesn't quite fit that same bill. But again, she does fit the same bill of like, oh my God, this person is gorgeous and so magnetic and mysterious and interesting, and I don't see them in a lot. And so anyway, it was so fun to see her in this role. Like I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, no, 100%. There's something about her that also, like, this doesn't happen very often, but she is so good on screen that like about 3/4 of the way through, I remembered, oh, she's a musician and a badass musician. She's incredible.
Yeah, she's unbelievable.
It is rare that there's not a moment in like, and I think Lady Gaga is a good actress, but there's not a moment in any movie that she's in where I forget that she's Lady Gaga, But Janelle Monáe is so truly herself. But the fact that she is a true triple threat and can kind of do it all, it truly is. It's a harkening back to a time when, like, of the Fred Astaire, when you had to be a Hollywood star, you had to be a triple threat. You had to be able to sing, dance, and act. And it just, we lost that somewhere along the way, and every once in a while get it back with like a Hugh Jackman or something. But
she is like a true creative. If you want to dive down the rabbit hole, start with Metropolis, the Chase Suite. It's an EP she put out in 2007, and then she put up a bunch of great stuff in between that and this one. But in 2010, she put out a record called The Arc Android, which was this absolutely bonkers concept album thing. Like she could just be a really, really great soul or pop artist or something like that, and she doesn't. She comes out with these weird theatrical concept albums that are like, I think she has a theater background,
I honestly, I'm just gonna say it and throw it out there and see what we think. But I just had this thought. I was like, I think she has the ability to be like the Kanye that all of us want Kanye to be.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
she is just a creative.
Yeah, she did an iTunes festival set too. I think it might have been the same year that Ed Sheeran did his, where he broke out like crazy.
Yeah.
2012 or 2013 or something like that. And it's just like, what is this? Like, who is this? It's insane.
She's so inventive, and it really is. Refreshing, magnetic. Like she just is. Like, I don't have a reference point, but at the same time, like she feels like she came out of a different time, but also the future.
Yeah.
Like she, you know what I mean? It's this 100%. Weird, she's this futuristic, like Billie, what's her face?
Holiday.
Thank you. Anyway.
I love him.
Billie Holiday.
A little clueless reference for y'all. But yeah, super interesting. So they all get this box, and they solve this crazy puzzle. You have to solve this insane puzzle, and when you get to the center of the puzzle, there's an invitation to a party that says, "Hey, you're invited to my birthday party where you're going to solve my murder." Yes. And the only person who gets the box and does not solve it is Janelle Monáe's character. She gets it, and she immediately beats the shit out of it with a hammer and just breaks it open and grabs the thing out, and just gets straight to the message. And then we see a knock on Benoit Blanc's door. We hear, "Hey, there's someone at the door with a box for you." And the next thing we see, they're all on the island. And really interesting, he shows up, and Edward Norton's character introduces everyone, welcomes them all to the island and everything, and then pulls Benoit Blanc aside and says, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "What do you mean? I got a box." And he's like, "I didn't send you one." And he's like, "Well, I got one." And he's like, "Okay, well, someone here must have sent you theirs after they solved it or something like that." So I guess, I don't know, I'd like someone else is up to something. I guess stick around, see if you can solve my murder mystery thing. Yeah. And he's basically planned, he's on his own island. He owns his own island that's this weird, crazy, futuristic, Steve Jobsy egomaniac thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I've completely sent all of the help home. There's no cooks, there's no chefs, there's no butlers, there's no one here. And all we're gonna do this weekend is solve my birthday murder mystery." And then as that announcement is happening, our bud Noah Segan in like flip-flops,
we knew he was coming.
Yeah, I was so excited.
It took me a minute. It was literally when he was walking off screen where I was like, "Yeah." And it was only because you told me that he makes an appearance, and I was like, I kind of knew he would.
Yeah, because I told you I was excited to get your take on it. But yeah, he literally just walks. He says, "I've sent everyone home off the island," and then he just walks past and goes, "Oh, except for him. He has nothing to do with this weekend's festivities." And it's just this random guy. They're like, "Who is that?" And he's like, "He's just some guy who lives here."
Yeah,
and like that's it. And he just goes, "Hi guys," and he just walks off.
True, and it's true. That's what's so great about it is you're like, okay, he's going to come back into play. Nope, he's just some dude. No backstory. He's just some dude.
Yeah, that's the closest thing to a spoiler you'll get this entire deal is you literally get to the end of the movie and you're like, "Hey, what the fuck was up with that one guy?" You're like, nothing was up with that guy. He literally was just some guy that had nothing to do with anything that just walks into the frame every now and then on the deal. Which I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't sure if we could say that because I kept wondering like, "Oh, what is he going to have to do with the mystery or with the?" And he never does. That was a little bit of a letdown for me. But at the same time, I want to know your thoughts on that because, again, we talked about this a lot on the Knives Out thing, the fact that Noah pops up in every Rian Johnson movie, how well he does in all of them. I know it was basically a cameo in The Last Jedi, but in Knives Out, like he gets laughs in every scene he's in, and he's going up against like Hollywood A-listers, and he's magnetic. He's holding the screen.
Truly.
And it felt a little, I don't know. I was a little let down at the now he does that again. His character is amazing in this movie. Yeah, every time he comes on the screen, everyone's cracking up. But like, I don't know. It was a little like a little underutilized.
Yeah. Do you think that has to do with the fact that we do feel kind of closer to him because we got to spend time with him at Fantastic Fest? You know, is there an element of like, I want more Noah Segan? I mean, there's definitely more of him in Knives Out than in this film for sure.
Maybe. I mean, like even at Fantastic Fest, I remember you being like, "Oh," because you knew more about his background than I did. Yeah. And you telling me about like, "Yeah, I think they were college suite mates, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." And you're like, "Yeah, he's in all of his movies." So I think like either way, knowing that fact, I would have kind of been like, "Oh, he didn't really do much now." Yeah, I mean, he was in it. But I don't know. It just felt a little bit like, come on, dude. Like he's on screen with like Ed Norton and Janelle Monáe and Dave
Dude.
Bautista and Kate Hudson. Like, let the guy run a little bit. And then at the same time, like it works. Like he gets
steals the
laughs
show.
in every single scene.
And now it's really strange because he has more screen time on in Knives Out, but this is the movie that people will remember him from because he stands out because of
the character's more memorable.
Because he has these little pop-ups and people remember that. Oh, he's that stoner dude who's just like on the beach and then has his own little, like he pops up like 3 times, I think. In the his final appearance is my favorite. Like him, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not spoiling it, but yeah, it's amazing.
I'm also going to. I'll just admit, unless I do Carmy from The Bear again out of pure laziness, I will probably be his character from Glass Onion for Halloween next year.
Oh,
because it's just like, I'm just gonna dress comfy and like wear a wig or some shit. That sounds awesome, you know?
Yeah. No, that's it. I mean, if you wanted to get his attention ever, that was the way to do it. It's such a great
I mean, I'm like dead set on that. I saw
That's
some
perfect.
account that was posting about his fashion. Someone was like calling out that character, saying like he was some kind of fashion icon or whatever. And I was like, dude, his clothes actually do look hella comfortable. Like I could
Really
totally do that for like buy a poncho and some gaucho pants and just be whatever that guy's name was from Glass Onion.
Yeah. Wait, what was his name? I gotta look it up now.
I don't know if they ever say.
Daryl. Which is the perfect name. And it's spelled, I'm looking it up right now. It's spelled DEROL. Daryl.
Why is that so funny to me?
It's so funny. It's such a funny, like Ryan Johnson little. I wonder what the story behind that is. Like, it just shows that that guy was definitely like a tech bro. Like Daryl spelled DEROL. He was definitely like a Silicon Valley guy who met Edward Norton's character Miles Braun along the way, and he just either knows something about Miles Braun that he's like keeping him close, or he's just like one of his bros. Like maybe they were college roommates, or something.
The other thing I wonder is like, is there an element of this where it's just like, hey, I really wanted Noah in Glass Onion. It was during COVID. He was like, I don't know, was he shooting Blood Relatives around the same time or something? And he's like, hey, I don't have much time. He goes, here's the deal. Give me 1 day. Give me 1 day, and in like 3 hours, we'll shoot all your scenes. You know what I mean?
It's possible.
And he was just like, just to squeeze him in, I did that because there was some kind of scheduling conflict.
And
that would make me feel a lot better.
I wonder if I mean, one day we'll ask him because we're going to manifest the shit out of that and have him on. But but also like
his hair was talk about Blood Relatives.
His hair was long in this, and his hair is long in Blood Relatives, so it's very possible. It's more slick back in Blood Relatives, but maybe
it was a lot shorter in Blood Relatives, though, wasn't it?
I mean, it's just more in his
like
face.
Shoulder length in this.
Is it? Okay, I don't know.
I'm just trying to
timeline it.
Yeah, it's like shoulder length in this movie. I just assumed it was a wig.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's not. Maybe it's just COVID hair.
I want to keep talking about. I just want to have this episode just be. What if we had a Glass Onion episode that's just about Daryl, Noah Segan's character?
There is an Instagram account called BAMF Style. BAMF, which stands for Badass Motherfucker.
Yes, it does.
BAMF Style.
Dane Cook.
Yeah, I know. BAMF Style, and they have a post about the undisputed king of minding his own business. Laid back Daryl, played by Noah Segan, spends Glass Onion unbothered by the murder mystery and the disruptive drama unfolding around him. And they just get into like how cool his style is and all the stuff that he wears.
That's so funny.
So go check that out, y'all, and don't steal my Halloween costume idea. Or do.
Yeah.
Actually,
everyone
do.
And follow Kid Blue on Instagram. That's Noah's thing. Go watch this movie. We're going to keep pumping it out. Okay, so we have this interesting idea. So we have it which is a classic mystery trope. It's like we have, just like Knives Out, we have all these people and they have to be here. They can't leave. Same way as Knives Out, like they're stuck in this house for the time being because they're being interrogated or whatever. And then I don't know how much to talk about it, but like it is interesting how Benoit Blanc is there. He knows that it's a mystery that he's there, because Miles tells him, and he seems just completely. He plays this role of like he is just absolutely like, oh shucks, sir, I'm so bowled over by the idea of like this car is amazing, and this is just I've never been on an island before. Like he's playing into Miles Braun, Edward Norton's character's like ego of like, show me your world, sir.
Yeah.
In such a way, but it's interesting because Daniel Craig plays Benoit Blanc as a little, he kind of is a childlike wonder. Like he loves mysteries and he loves being here. Like he has so much fun. There's a great moment where he just shows how good he is at solving mysteries at the table,
my God,
which is
so good. I wish we could give that away.
I know, but it's just so satisfying. It's so funny. I laughed like the entire time. As soon as I saw what they were doing, I was like, oh my God. It's incredible.
It was hilarious. Yeah. There's a moment where he solved something that isn't meant to be solved, and he does it unbelievably quickly. It's
I was going to
so
ask
good.
you watched like the new Rockstars breakdown of Knives Out. Did you watch the one for this?
I didn't know.
I didn't either. But like there's a lot of things you mentioned in the Knives Out breakdown. Eric Voss's from New Rockstars. Go watch that. That I was like, oh, you talked about Knives Out. Everything that's mentioned, nothing is mentioned in passing. It all kind of lines up. And there's stuff in this, I'm sure, that does the same thing.
Oh, absolutely.
That I'm missing. But even like stuff where it's like he talks about how Miles Braun is like he went forward with this idea of this like hydrogen-based alternate fuel called Clear with a K, which is so dumb. It's going to launch, and the whole island is powered by it. And they're like, "What? This wasn't tested." And then that comes back, like to be, there's just certain things like that. I realized something while we took a little bit of a break before we started doing this episode that I think I couldn't put my finger on why this didn't do it for me as much as Knives Out did. And I think it's because of Triangle of Sadness and The Menu. So those two movies we talked about, Seeing at Fantastic Fest, those, if you push those two movies together, it's kind of Glass Onion-ish. It fits the same realm. And I think those movies did it a little bit better, or did it differently in a way that pleased me, I guess.
I can say better. I think this is an amazing movie, but Triangle of Sadness and The Menu are like they're masterpieces.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So
like
too.
they are. Now, if there was a Triangle of Sadness 2 and people got on a train and then that train crashed, that would be like Glass Onion. Yeah, they all vomited on a train and then they got marooned on some island or something. That would be like what Glass Onion is doing, where they're taking the same concept and just kind of doing it again, doing it so well. But like Knives Out, I think, is a masterpiece. It's an absolute masterpiece. This one, so is Glass Onion. If you take Knives Out of it, you know what I mean. But keeping that in here, it's just harder to appreciate so many of the same things coming back to play. And I think you're 100% right. The spirit, the eat the rich spirit behind Triangle of Sadness and The Menu is the same spirit behind Glass Onion. If Knives Out was talking about the need to, disrupt this generational wealth and this whole idea of like legacy and the power that is passed down from father to son and perpetuated that way, race and all of that kind of stuff, and the way that plays out. Glass Onion very much so is the message behind that is I think like in influence and power and money, kind of this idea of corporate greed manifested though through individuals, you know what I mean? Less so corporations and more so it's less, if you're talking about corporate greed, it's less about Apple and it's more about Tim Cook, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Totally. It's more about the men and women behind these things, what motivates them, and how ultimately all of them are selling out what they ever did believe, if they ever believed anything, just for any level of influence. They're willing to influence people towards something that they don't believe in any way, shape, or form, just in order to have any kind of influence.
So they can say that they had influence. So they can feel like they matter. Like they matter.
Be the ones in power. Yeah. Do you want to be in power and be able to influence people towards something you don't believe? Or do you want to stay true to your convictions and have no power or influence? And it's kind of that thing. So it's like there's similar but different veins and stuff like that. And there's no way that Rian Johnson could have known that The Menu and Triangle of Sadness were going to come out. But I mean, ultimately, again, I'm not disparaging this movie, but it is, I think you're touching on a really good thing there, because like first off, we didn't just see Triangle of Sadness in The Menu. We saw them at Fantastic Fest, surrounded by other movie fans, and had unbelievable screening experiences.
It was an experience
for like singularly unique and excellent films, and this was a really good movie that was kind of like its predecessor that I watched on Netflix, and so like it's gonna be that touched on a lot of the same themes, you know what I mean? And so it's hard because it's like it's almost like we talked about this. I have a buddy who never saw Almost Famous, and then he saw Licorice Pizza first, and then he was like, oh, it kind of gives me Licorice Pizza vibes, and I was like, that's blasphemy. That is blasphemy because Almost Famous came so much first, and this is the opposite of that, where I'm like, this is kind of this is good. It's giving me Triangle of Sadness in the Menu vibes. You know.
Yeah, it very similar. I mean, that happens every once in a while. I mean, I'm not saying it's the same movie or anything, but like, you know, but in 2005, 2006, when The Prestige and The Illusionist both came out, like both are good movies on their own. I think The Prestige is like a classic, is incredible. Christopher Nolan, but like people didn't really see either because they're like, ugh, you know, they're just like
another magician movie.
Yeah, exactly. And so this. I wonder, and this isn't the same thing because I don't think The Menu is as big or as hyped up as Glass Onion is, which it deserves to be. But it's just interesting, and it's a fun era that we're in, that these these things start happening. But even if Knives Out got greenlit because, or if The Menu got greenlit because they're like, if they were like, hey, Knives Out was a huge hit, we're going to throw a bunch of celebrities into like a what do they call it in Community, like a bottle episode or whatever. Like essentially, and it's gonna be fun to see all these celebrities together acting together in a room the entire movie. You're like, oh yeah, okay. I think they surpass what Glass Onion was doing. You know, it's just, but it's a different movie. It feels, I really am hesitant with comparing films sometimes because
it's
I'm
unfair.
You know, it's not the same thing. But I think because I saw those two movies, it really did, like, before I saw this one, I think it really did help. It took me an extra beat or 3 or 4 to get on board with Glass Onion as it was going. Like I was judging it against those, maybe unfairly, but still.
I mean, to be honest, by the end of the movie, still, I was judging it against Knives Out, and then I don't think I realized it until you said that, but also Triangle of Sadness in the Menu.
Do you see what I'm talking about with that? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Because it kind of does the same thing, and masterfully so, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know where I'm going with all of that. Except to say, it sounds like we didn't like this movie. we like this movie.
I know all we've done is say negative things about it, and I really I can't stress enough how much I enjoyed this movie.
It's so
how
fun.
much I enjoyed Noah Segan in this movie, all the other actors, and the writing and all that stuff, and the directing. It's just as good as any of. It's just as good as Knives Out, and I've been really excited to talk about it. But yeah, you're right. The closer I get to it, the more I go like, it's really hard for me to not admit that it left me wanting. You know?
Yeah, for sure. How do you feel about Dave Bautista? I can't put my finger on what it is about him, but
yeah. So he was in another movie. I'm trying to think of what it was called. He plays a cop, and it was like him trying to like, and I watched like 20 minutes of it and just couldn't, and I don't think it was his fault. It was just a shitty movie. It was he was not shitty in it. And dude, like rewatching even just the Guardians of the Galaxy, not rewatching, but watching the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special,
right?
Like Drax plays such a huge role in it, and then he just basically came out and said he's glad that Drax dies in Guardians 3, which I was like, thanks, dude.
I saw that. Yeah, he's like, I'm done playing Drax.
Yeah, and so, which again, I guess a lot of people have said that, and they end up coming back. So who knows? Maybe he's angling for more money, but it doesn't seem like it. It seems like he genuinely doesn't want to play Drax anymore, and like he's done with it. And I'm like, he was like, he said, I want to be like a serious actor, and I don't know, I get annoyed when people come out and say shit like that. Like, just do it. Stop telling us what you want to do and just go do it, dude. It's so unattractive. It's so ugly to it's back to, and I don't just mean actors, dude, but like when LeBron held a whole press conference to say he was leaving Cleveland, I'm like, who cares? Are you kidding me?
I know.
This happens every year. People just do it and send out a tweet. Like, you had to do a press conference and throw baby powder in the air. Like, get over yourself, dude. And it kind of, I'm just like, oh, I want to be a serious actor. Like, okay, hey, just do it. Honestly, like, you're a wrestler who was lucky to be in a movie that he was great in.
Yeah.
No one is curious as to what your intentions are. Just go do them.
Yeah.
Like, just go. You're making it harder for, and he doesn't deserve the tone that I'm giving him right now. I'll say that, but that's what he's going to get from me and other people, because initially when you go like, hey guys, announcement, I want to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, well, who's going to be able to do that now? Who can take
Yeah.
you seriously? Like when you come out, like serious people don't do that. Serious people just go do stuff. And I'm
know.
not saying he's a bad actor, because I don't think he was a bad actor. I think he did really well in this movie. I think Drax
Yeah.
is a hard character. I think comedy is harder than drama. So if he was able to do what he was able to do as Drax, I think he could totally be a good dramatic actor if he sticks with it. Potentially, I've never really seen him in a series, like in a really good dramatic role.
He has one coming up, the new M. Night movie.
Yeah. That's true.
So we'll
I'm curious to see him there. And there was another one where he plays an older person for a minute. I want to say it was like Terminator or something like that. It was like one of the new. Anyway, I can't think of it. We'll figure it out. But so anyway, all that to say, I don't know. I think serious people just do what they're gonna do. I've had to learn that myself, even with creative projects. I've announced stuff.
Me too.
Dude, announcing something is the way to make sure it doesn't happen.
Oh, dude, I made an entire trailer for a podcast about 1998 and haven't touched it a year ago. So,
but you didn't post it, did you?
Mhm.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Dude, I hyped it up, and then and then like 2 days later decided to move to Arkansas, and kind of things got
I didn't
put on
remember you
hold.
posting that. I still think that's a great.
Nobody else
podcast
did
idea,
either.
though.
Yeah, we'll see. TBD.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think announcing it. So I think he did a good job in this movie. I think he did a great job in this movie. If there were parts of his performance that I hated, it's because I hated his Alex Jones, Andrew Tate-esque.
Yeah, his little men's right activist YouTuber guy.
Yeah, you hate the character, but that's him doing his job. You know what I mean?
He's supposed to do that. I know. I wonder about this kind of stuff where it's like, is this going to be a thing later down the line when Dave Bautista, I don't know, he might have a very long career, but it's like one of those things where like, oh yeah, remember when Dave Bautista was like in everything?
Yeah.
But like when what's her face? Well, I guess she's still in stuff, but Tiffany Haddish, it's like she had a moment there where she was literally in everything, and it's like, why are we keep putting Tiffany Haddish in everything? Because she had like a really great performance in one movie that caught everybody by surprise, and that is now captured in time, where we're all like, oh yeah, I remember like,
you know what else is captured in time? I don't like being negative, but is how distractingly god awful she is in the card counter. Or the counter. Is it the card counter or the
counter? Is that the Jake Johnson movie?
It's the what's his name? Why can't I think of his name? Oscar Isaac.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that one. Yeah,
dude,
bad, pretty
Nicholas.
bad. Pretty bad. I love Oscar Isaac, and I want to see that movie, but that is my name.
It's worth watching. It was a really compelling, kind of difficult movie.
Sure,
but that's not me not recommending it. But it's just like distractingly bad. Like I don't understand how you're the director of that movie and you don't go, hey guys, we have to reshoot every scene that she touched. Because it is so distractingly awful. And so all that to say, I don't feel that way about David Bautista at all. I thought he did exactly what he needed to do in this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't dislike him.
Casting.
I have a little bit of attached to him because the whole like I'm done playing Drax. I want to be a serious actor. I want to be taken seriously. Well, then don't say shit like that, dude. Just go be in serious movies or something. I don't know.
Because everything he does now, I'll be like, oh, is this his attempt at being serious? Oh, cool.
Yeah,
neat.
Well, like Adam Sandler didn't come out and go like, hey, I don't want to be, Little Nicky forever. He just made Uncut Gems, and we were like, holy crap, that was unreal.
Or like Punch Drunk Love. Like, remember, like he came out of nowhere and did Punch Drunk Love, and we were like,
dude, do you remember Rain on Me? Or is it Rain Over Me?
Rain Over Me. I really like that movie. He's incredible.
He was insane in that. We haven't talked about that enough. No one talks about that movie.
I know. Thank you for mentioning that. I was blown away. Him and Don Cheadle. I was blown away by him in that movie.
Oh, so good. And no announcement needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we
should do an ep on it.
Ooh, that's a great one, actually. Nobody will listen to it because nobody remembers that movie, but I will. Well, we should either do an episode of that movie or talk about it once when we hang out.
Let's do another podcast where we just talk about the movies we want to talk about, because I don't know how many times we've been like, oh, we should, and then we're like, oh, no one's gonna watch that.
Nobody's gonna watch that one. It also, this is an interesting casting choice because Kathryn Hahn has played more serious roles before, but she is not particularly funny in this role. Like a known comedic actress,
That's so true. I didn't think about that until you said it right now. They don't really
she kind of just plays like a worry wart. Like she's just kind of like stressed the whole time. Like one of the funniest comedic actresses we have, Catherine Hahn, and so it's an interesting casting role. But I don't know. There's
Catherine
stuff
Hahn.
like that.
Catherine Hahn in We're the Millers is like
Yes.
the Jason Sudeikis, Jen Aniston movie.
Underrated.
Emma Roberts, and who's the other kid? Will Poulter, is that his
Yeah,
name?
Will Poulter.
Will Poulter does the left eye rap from Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls. That
every
moment,
line
and
he
Catherine
has
Hahn,
in that movie is golden. Will Poulter,
dude, it really is, and he hasn't
Golden.
done much comedy since then.
I know.
But dude, Catherine Hahn is one of the funniest. Like,
she's
scenes
married
that
to Nick
no one will
Offerman
ever.
in that. Yeah,
I know it. Scenes that no one will ever quote because that movie is just not. It didn't stick around in the zeitgeist,
No.
even though it's hilarious.
It
But dude,
is.
her scenes were amazing.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's so good. Like
but-
when she's given like free reign, like 'cause she even improvised a lot in Step Brothers, and she's amazing in Step Brothers. Like, she's a true force. But-
So I wonder if this is worth, if we can talk about this without it spoiling much. You tell me.
I'm
I'm
trying
going
to
to say it,
figure
and
out
then
how
we
to
can,
talk
and then
about
we
it.
can cut this out if you think
Go
so.
for it.
Because to jump, kind of like we did with Knives Out, to get away from the plot, just say it's an incredible movie. You're going to love it. If you are a person who watches things very actively and is paying attention, you're going to be rewarded. If you're a dum-dum like Dave, like me, you'll be able to watch this and just love the movie. And it's like, this is a phenomenal movie and everyone should watch it. The more we watch these movies, the more movies like these will get made. And so I want to support them.
Totally.
But to get away from the plot and get to some of the themes of this stuff, I
Yes.
thought it was very interesting because like I didn't really catch myself wondering too hard how all of these people were connected to Ed Norton's character. But it's interesting because you have like a politician, a YouTuber, his former business partner, and Janelle Monáe. Help me out. Who are the other folks that are on there?
Kate Hudson plays this like politically incorrect
influencer.
former supermodel turned fashion designer influencer person. Leslie Odom Jr. plays a scientist for his company. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. That's right. The scientists. But so you have all these people going like, how on earth are they connected to this like tech startup billionaire type guy? Like, what's the deal? And basically at one point, I'm pretty sure it's Janelle Monáe's character, if I remember, calls it all out and goes like, hey, here's why we're all, can I just like zoom out for a minute and let you guys know what's actually happening here?
Mr. Blanc, you're a detective, right? Can you spot the real thing this group has in common?
Andy, come on.
Oh, Lionel. Everybody knows who Lionel works for. That's no secret. And we know who bankrolled Claire's campaign. But when nobody would touch Birdie with a 10-foot pole because she went on Oprah and compared herself to Harriet Tubman in spirit. Who do you think showed up as an angel investor in Sweetie Pans? Huh? And Duke. When Duke got banned from Twitch for hawking rhino horn boner pills to teenage boys,
Zero rhino on those pills.
who do you think set them up at YouTube and used their media empire to promote the stream? That is the common thread here. Every single one of you is holding on for dear life to Miles Bryant's golden titties. And each of you'll stab a friend in the back to hold on.
First question, before we even get into the themes of that and what Rian Johnson's actually trying to say is, I'm curious, like, so you have an opportunity, you and I are both musicians, we've done a lot of creative things, take this podcast even. Let's say we could be Call Her Daddy, right? We could be the Joe Rogan podcast. If we let some like malicious, malintended billionaire, if we let Jeffrey Bezos pump millions into this podcast and say, I will make you guys the most influential thing ever, but when I have an agenda I want you to push, when I have a message I want you to get out to people, when I have something I want you not to talk about it, I'm gonna come calling, and you are gonna say, I'll say jump, you'll say how high. Like, I would love to say, oh no, I would never. Oh my God. Oh, whoa, what? Right. I would never. It's very easy to say when there's no offer on the table, right? But so it's hard. I don't even know what I'm asking because I know you'll say like, no, I wouldn't, or you'll say, yeah, I would. But like, it's kind of like there's no offer on the table. But that's a very interesting question to say. Like, so would you rather just like live life in obscurity and wrestle to make ends meet, like 99% of creatives in the world do? Or would you rather be catapulted to this place of extreme recognition and influence and all this other stuff, but know it was bought for you,
Yeah.
and that like nothing about your voice or your message contributed to your influence.
This is
What
an
are your thoughts on that?
this is an age-old question. This is the devil's bargain at the crossroads. You know, this is like
Yeah.
this is the devil went down to Georgia. This is like that scene in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Like
Yep.
this is but it's a modern day version of that, where it's like you will get on the offset, you will get everything that your dreams could even possibly like hope to accomplish. And then, but what is it worth to you? You know, is it worth that you will eventually like they will come a calling, the piper will come a calling, and you will have to pay him. Like, and I've thought about this a lot because you know, you and I have been in the music industry enough to know. Oh man,
that's how
like,
it works.
Like, yeah, like it literally, like I've had friends like have giant parties because they got signed, and then 5 years later they're like looking over their contract to see how they can get out of it because they're like, oh, I don't get to do, like I get to finally get my music out there. It's technically my music, but they are telling me, the label is telling me what I can and cannot sing about. And I'm mostly talking about Christian labels now, but it's like, oh shoot, now I'm stuck in this like 10 album deal. And I will never get it. I get to technically do my dream job, but the thing I want to talk about, I don't get to sing about. It's not real to me. It's just I'm a mouthpiece now. Like that, I've literally had friends do that, and I'm like, oh man, I think I'd rather do. And then ask me to explain. Can you just talk to me about like what being an indie artist is like right now? Like, God, what a dream. Like I would kill.
Yeah, and you're like, well, no one promotes me for me. No one books my shows.
Yeah, I do.
No
all
one pays
of it.
for my stuff. Like,
I'm so
that's
exhausted,
what it's like, dude.
I'm so exhausted by the end of promoting and booking shows that I don't even have time to write music because I'm like,
yeah,
I'm just white. So it is that trade-off. Like you have to ask yourself at some point, and like everybody in this movie, even the people that seem like Leslie Odom Jr.'s character and Catherine Hahn's character, which seem pure of heart, they seem like they do have a conscience, is revealed that at one point they traded in that conscience. For, you know, and
or at very least agreed in the future trade that that conscience in should he come calling. Well, and the other thing is, I feel like within the Glass Onion realm, it's a little easier to answer that question because they make it such an extreme case, right? Without getting into the details. But like, it's something that I've wrestled with even, we don't have to get into this a ton, but like there is well, I'll just say this. A lot of artists do this. You know what? I got a perfect example that'll be less incendiary. 30 Seconds to Mars has an entire documentary called Go to War or something like that, about them going to war with their record label, and how like at one point he's sitting in there and he's playing this piano and he goes, you know what's crazy is I'm playing a song that I wrote right now. We can't put it in the documentary because I don't own it. And everyone's like, oh, poor guys. They're not. And I think the whole point of the movie was they never made a cent off of any of their album sales. They never made 1 cent off of their music. They made it off of touring and merch sales and stuff like that, but they couldn't do it on the other stuff. And I'll be honest, that documentary pissed me off because the only reason 30 Seconds to Mars was 30 Seconds to Mars is because someone else paid for all their shit. And so like I've always wrestled with this. I'm not defending the music industry, but it becomes a harder thing, a harder pill to swallow, a harder question to answer when I see these artists go like, this is unfair, this is my music, but they're saying they own it. And I'm going like, well, that's not how the world works. Technically, right now I am in quote air quotes my house, but I don't own this house. Some bank does. Some bank bought this house from some dude and I'm paying them. So for me to go, well, this isn't fair, they're kicking me out of my house, dude, you'd never finished paying for it. That's not your house. Well, this isn't fair, like those are my masters. No, they're not. You were a 16-year-old girl. You were a little Hollywood star boy. You were a whatever when this label said, you were, you know, whatever you were when this label said, hey, we're going to pump tens of thousands of dollars into this, and then probably hundreds of thousands to millions, depending on the artist, to promote you and give you a stylist and plan your tour and book your shows and pay all the other people and do all this other stuff. And you wouldn't be who you are had we not done that. So like, you don't own any of that. But when I see Gen Z on TikTok talking about these evil record labels and how they mistreat artists, that is a part of the story. Record labels are not good. Record labels do not care about artists. They're not great. However, they didn't trick anybody. Like they said, we will give you fame and stardom, a shot at it, right? But we're going to own the stuff we pay for, which is entirely fair. So it's like, it's hard because there's all this new generation of young people coming up talking about how labels are evil, and I'm going to do it my own way, and and it's like, hey, I'm for you, and I want you to do it your own way. And a lot of other artists have shown us that that's entirely possible. The Macklemores have shown us that's possible. I'll say even more importantly, there are a number of men that you and I know, and women, who have shown us that it's possible to be a very successful blue collar musician, which I think is a more important thing to say. Hey, if you don't want to be Macklemore or Beyonce, you can make an entirely respectable, comfortable living as a full-time musician. You just aren't going to live in Beverly Hills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's one side of it. But then it's like you have this extreme example in this movie where it's like, well, would you trade in your morals for influence and for blah, 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 and for blah, blah, blah? And it's like, well, we kind of do that literally every day. We kind of like every single day. I don't know how many friends I have who have jobs where they work at places where they can't post what they want to on social media, because the job is saying, hey, you represent this company, right? Or people straight out of college who can't do that because new employers are looking at your social media when you apply at a job to see what kind of person you are and stuff like that. And so it's like, is there a difference? It's so easy to be like, oh, wow, these people are so weak. And I'm like, dude, we trade in our morals and our beliefs every single day for a paycheck. A lot of us, not all of us. Nick, you're one of the few free ones. You're out there, you're out there slinging your opinions and hopes and dreams in a lot of ways. No, but I mean, like, there's so many people who buy into some level of security, and you trade in quite a bit from that. So anyway, I don't know what random tangent I'm going on here, but I think it's
really good.
There's one very powerful question to ask. Would you? And I still think that's a question to answer, because I'm not sure how I would answer it. To be honest, if you told me Spotify would pay you and I $100 million for our podcast, and Jeffrey Bezos could tell us what not to talk about, I need to have a serious conversation with my wife.
I know. No, dude, no kidding. No kidding. I've been living to paycheck for 9 months. I'm like, you know what? That sounds pretty sweet. Because really all I hear is $100 million. I don't hear any. I'm like, I'll cross the other bridge when I get there. You know what I mean? It seems it's like that thing where it's like you're going to get all this money and you're going to live comfortably, and then your art might be less effective because it's not coming from your like point of view. So your heart's not going to be behind it. It's like there's your trade-off. Like, do you want to do the thing on their terms or your own? I think it plays to our need, especially as creatives, but as men, to be seen as legitimate. Like, there's this like, oh, this makes me legitimate. If people see me as, they don't know how the sausage is made. They don't know that some tech millionaire gave me $100 million. They just see me, a man with $100 billion, going to the places, the clubs,
that's an interesting
the car lots to buy like these fancy ass cars and stuff, that like these dealerships and whatever, like the $100 million people go to. And like there's a certain level. There's so many of those people, like the trust fund kids or whatever. They're living these like lifestyles and stuff. And you're like, oh man, they're so cool, but like they weren't handed that stuff. We talked about nepotism last week with Knives Out, but I think Miles Braun, Edward Norton's character, is a perfect example of that, because the thing he keeps mentioning over and over again is that he wants to be mentioned in the same breath as the Mona Lisa. And I think that phrase is indicative of so specifically men, because we have this obsession with legacy, that like I think that you have to ask yourself, what would you be willing? Like, how deep is your desire to have your name mentioned in the breath of something iconic and to live forever as that? Would you be willing to trade literally your soul, or whatever it is? And I think we've seen examples of people, especially in the music industry, who, or in history, in the arts world in general, like, who didn't get to live to see their art reach its full potential. Like Emily Bronte. There's all these people like that I learned about in lit class and stuff like that. It was like, oh, they died, and then like 75 years later, their stuff was found, and then they were made into these icons.
Well, and even modern folks like Jeff Buckley, and you know what I mean?
Absolutely,
like, there's a lot of those guys. Yeah.
That's a perfect example where it's like, okay, well, is it worth it to you if you don't get to experience the spoils of the legacy? You kind of have to ask yourself, because when I think about that, my first thought, like I just said to you, is like, oh man, I don't have to worry about bills for a while. Not only that, like, what can I do to that? I can put myself out there in ways where people will know who I am, and I can hopefully have the longevity of a career in so many different ways. And then until you're a few years down the line, and it's like, by the way, you have to do it this way. You have to do this. You sign this contract. You sign this NDA. All this stuff. You're like, oh no, like I've signed myself up to live in this prison. I mean, I see the benefits of both sides.
And then in this movie, it's interesting because you go, a lot of the people, they're going like, well, I want to make the right decision though, and I want to protect people, and I want to what, blah, 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 but I can't because I'm beholden to this Miles character, you know? But it makes me go like, well, do they really want to make the right decision? Or do they not want to be remembered as the people who are going to have made the wrong decision? Are they ultimately this virtuous decision that they want to make to be good people and not do the things that Miles is asking them to do? Is that because of conviction, or is that because they believe that this is going to blow up in his face? No pun intended.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be remembered. They don't want their legacy to be ruined. It's like there's kind of this like, are you really struggling with what he's asking you to do, or are you just nervous that people are going to find out that you've been a phony this whole time? You know?
Yeah, there's a lot of like image conscious, like,
yeah,
how is it going to look? I mean, they even with the Kate Hudson character, like she has, we didn't talk about it yet, but like she has a personal assistant on here that is great in the movie.
So fun.
I want to shout her out, played by Jessica Henwick. And I feel like constantly she has to stop her from, you know, they're very like aware of like, hey, this is how you're coming across. So everybody in this movie is very careful with their image, and very image, not more than conscious. They're very aware of how they're presenting themselves, and it's very curated in one way or another. And it really does in a pretty cool way. And maybe it's very heavy-handed. I don't really know, because I didn't think too much about this movie in this way, but like it's showing that every facet of our culture, be it everything from politics to science to the influencers to the, you know, everybody who has a different job in this is guilty of this. It's all entertainment.
Yeah, that's
it's
so
all,
good.
It's all some
entertainment.
kind of magic trick. It's like
So well said,
everybody is thinking about it. And we've seen that in the last 6-7 years with politics. Like Trump just blew that wide open, where it's like, oh, this is all like drama. This is all like cinema. This is Shakespearean. Sometimes and because it gets eyeballs on it, and everybody's aware of that. Everybody has a publicist, you know, and it shows every branch of our like culture, capital C, has everybody's kind of guilty of it, you know, in one
That's
form
so
or
well
another.
said. It's well said that like it's all entertainment, and I think the other thing is that everyone in every facet of that, I didn't even think about that. That's so obvious now, but like politics, science, business, social media, and entertainment, and things like that are they're not motivated by conviction, but they are completely beholden to and controlled by their image.
Yes,
it's not even just like something they have to worry about. It's like, no, every decision I make revolves less around, or completely not at all around, my beliefs and convictions, and 100% around my image and the perception of me, you know?
Yeah. And even like the character Whiskey, who is the girlfriend of Dave Bautista's character, and then we see also has some stuff going on with Miles Braun's character. Like she is seemingly pure of heart. I don't really know if that's the way to say it, but like she seems to be the only one there who is absolutely upfront with what she's doing. Like she's like, yeah, I'm here. Like I'm just on on his Twitch channel, you know, as the assistant or whatever, but I have all these plans. She tells like Janelle Monáe's character, like I have all these plans to do this. She's very upfront about it. And we like that system. We like those people, you know, like even the Kardashians, to a point where they're like, oh yeah, like we're going to use this thing. You know, Kim Kardashian's sex tape was one of the first viral things. They'll be like, oh, cool. Well, I'm going to use this to build, you know, I have eyes on me. Cool. Now watch all the things I can do. There's just like every opportunity. It doesn't matter where it came from, is an opportunity to build something on it. And she's like, yeah, I mean, I'm like a assistant on a Twitch channel now. I'm a hot girl on a Twitch channel now, but like, this is where I'm going to stay. This is just climbing the ladder. And like drinking up the teat of a Miles Braun. Like everybody's kind of doing that, but everybody's like acting like they're not doing that in a way in this movie. And she's the only one that's just kind of like, yeah, that's wait, that's not what we're all doing here. So in a way, it's like the same thing where it's like if you match with some dude on Tinder and he's like, yeah, I'm a fuckboy, like that's what I'm about. I have more respect for that guy than somebody who's like playing like, oh, I might get married one day, I don't know, and then ends up being a fuckboy and just using people. It's so like, true. It's much more respectable and admirable to just be authentic and transparent and that's one thing that none of these people are, because they don't want to blow their chance with the one guy in their friend group that has all the money. So they put up with all his ridiculousness and just kiss his ass the whole time. Which Daniel Craig, Benoit Blanc, like has nailed from the beginning, but he doesn't show his cards like always.
Dude, I will say too, I don't want to jump out of the theme stuff too much, but the way we talked about how Knives Out tells you the first 25 minutes they ruin the surprise.
Yeah,
this movie does it quite a bit later into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I just didn't like the way he did it in this movie. Like when they reveal,
Really?
hey, here's this other thing that's going on.
Yeah,
I was like, okay. Like I felt that in
but was
Knives
it the
Out. I
way
think
it
I said
happened?
it. Like when they show you how Harlan Thromley dies in
Yes.
Knives Out, and I was like, oh no, but I was so invested. Now I'm not going to be as interested, and I was wrong. As the movie went on, I was like, no, I'm still very
interested.
interested.
It gets really good, yeah.
It gets really good. In this movie, when they go, hey, here's what you thought was happening, here's what's actually happening, I never recovered from my like
Really?
I still really enjoyed the movie after that point, but I couldn't get over that pang of like, I don't like this as much as I liked what I thought this was about a second ago, if that makes sense. Did you have that feeling, or did you really enjoy that?
No, I mean, I didn't think one way or another. I just was like, oh, this is what they're doing. And it's kind of neat because they show you kind of the first part of the movie again from different angles, and you're like, oh, okay. Which
it was well done.
It's neat to a degree, and you're like, oh, I understand some things now that were kind of like, wait, what was that? They put together more of the pieces for sure, but I don't know. It didn't hit me one way or the other. There were parts of it this time versus Knives Out that were just a little bit more unbelievable.
Yeah,
which
it was a little more.
I'll say that. Here's my big thing with Glass Onion. I had to remind myself it's just a movie. You're watching a movie, dude. It's fine.
Yeah.
With Knives Out, I was like, this feels like this could have actually happened. Or I was
invested like
in
a
the story.
cozy Agatha Christie novel you could have read.
Yes.
This felt like a big goofy movie, kind of.
Yeah.
Whereas
like let it go.
So did Triangle of Sadness, but Triangle of Sadness lets you know very blatantly we are satire. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The Menu kind of does something somewhat similar. I do think it's very interesting. There are parallels here in the last act of Glass Onion and The Menu,
right?
Which I thought were really fun. Is it too much of a spoiler to say that Miles, what's his last name?
Braun.
Miles Braun gets his wish to have his name mentioned in the same sentence as Mona Lisa. Should I cut that out?
Nope. It's true.
Okay.
He does get his wish, and you'll have to watch it and see how. But that was pretty cool. When I saw that coming, like when you see how it's about to happen, you're like, oh, he's about to get his wish. I didn't know how that was going to come about, but yeah.
And that's for all of our critiques about it. Oh, I wish we had something new. Like I could have never made a movie anywhere near this good. And the writing really was great. The writing was great. Like little things like that. I was like, well, he got his wish, you know? He really is.
Truly. A couple of little fun things that I wanted to point out. Like there are a ton of cameos in this movie, and I'm not going to spoil all of them because some of them are fun, but I will say, because he is a recurring person on this podcast and in your life, Ethan Hawke shows up.
Yeah.
And he looks
so random.
And he looks so cool. Like he has long hair. Like he's apparently Miles Braun's assistant, which I think is so funny. But yeah, I love to see Ethan Hawke in this role. Because usually he's just like this, I don't know, like there was something about him just being very like uniform. Like he's credited in the credits as efficient man, which is funny to me. And another thing that I didn't know, and I know, so Noah Segan, our buddy, shows up in every Rian Johnson movie, but so does Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he does a little bit more covert because Joseph Gordon-Levitt doesn't have as much time.
Good call. Yeah.
So, do you know how he shows up in this movie?
I don't know this one. We didn't talk about it in Knives Out, but he is. There's a scene where Marta at the beginning of the movie, she's like watching some movie on her laptop.
Yep.
And someone shouts something out, and that was Joseph Gordon-Levitt's voice.
Yes.
I totally forgot about that. I don't know where it is in this one
because I believe, and I have to fact check this, but like Noah Segan, Rian Johnson, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt were like college friends at some point. They're the reason that they were like roommates or schoolmates or something. But so Joseph Gordon-Levitt shows up as Miles. He's the voice of Miles's clock, the hourly dong.
That's amazing.
So there's a clock on the island where it just goes dong, which plays kind of an ominous role. That is Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
That's amazing, dude.
Every time that would happen, it made me laugh because they wouldn't always it would just be in the background sometimes. It's just a dude saying
Also,
dong.
it blows my mind, though. I know he's busier, but you're telling me Joseph Gordon-Levitt didn't have time to be in a movie and Ethan Hawke did?
I know. Well, it's shot during COVID, so I think a lot of people had a lot of time.
And
Yeah,
also,
what was
like,
Joseph
Ethan
Gordon-Levitt
Hawke
doing?
literally just showed up and did one thing, and I paused it. I was like, that was Ethan Hawke, and he's just gone now.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, okay. Can we watch the movie again? I was like, no.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say, but I mean, there's so many things I would love to say and I'll talk
so
to you
hard
about
to.
at some point, because I do want to leave the delicacy of the actual plot alone.
Mhm.
And I loved all the talk about like legacy and that kind of devil's handshake
Yeah.
idea, because that is like a true blue, goes back to the silent film era, you know?
Yeah, no, it really, really does. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like the whole Devil's Crossroad, like the devil went down to Georgia, that whole deal. Like you're right, it is one of the oldest stories. You know,
yeah, it's just told in this modern era, which it's funny as we talk about this movie more. I'm liking it more and more. I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. I kind of want to watch it again. Like,
dude, it's so good. We really didn't do a good job of letting people know that we love this movie.
I know.
I promise we did.
We promised we did. But I think for me, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, but like I will watch Knives Out like once a year for the rest of my life. Like but I don't know if I'll return to this one as much. But time will tell. You know, Knives Out has solidified itself. In my top 10 of that year. This is like fun. You know, I don't have time to watch both of them, but because I'm watching Airheads. So once I get my annual Airheads rewatch, maybe I'll think about it.
I have to watch High Fidelity, that thing you do in Almost Famous 4 times every year. I don't have time for these. Okay,
isn't that funny? Like I really do play that out where I'm like, like there's so many new things I want to watch, but I just want to watch, you know, Inside Llewyn Davis again. Like there are movies that I just do. What?
Yeah, no, it's so good. You're right. We have to do that thing you do soon.
Oh, absolutely.
Are we going to do it for the Zonathon?
Yes, let's do it. I would do it without the Zonathon, but that feels like the good kickoff for that, because good Lord, that movie is perfect. I have no notes.
I know. I want to do it. So it really is perfect.
I cannot wait for you to watch how they show up in Mad Men.
Shut up. You're ruining Mad Men for me every time I remember.
I know it's going to be a little bit worse every time Steve Zahn's character, every time the bass player doesn't show up.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Hey, follow us everywhere.
Follow
I guess
us
is that
on
what
the
we're doing?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this is a good way to wrap it up.
Yeah, he's at Nick Flora on all the socials. I'm at Dave Wears Black on all the socials. Betterman Film Club on Instagram and TikTok. Betterman Pod on Twitter. BettermanFilmClub@gmail.com to write us in. Tell us how our voices make you tingle all over. Tell us how our hot takes are the hottest takes you've ever heard. Tell us how you can hear our mouth sounds and it doesn't even bother you because you're so endeared to us. Tell us all the positive things on all the positive platforms.
Yeah.
You can find us on Truth Social. Just kidding. You can't.
Farmers Only.
Farmers Only. Yeah.
And make sure you call out every single time that Dave doesn't wear black on Instagram, because
please.
Honestly,
I need some accountability.
He has a tan sweater sometimes. I'm like, whoa.
That's weird. That's real. I have a couple brown tops.
You do.
Sorry. And a couple t-shirts that were just
fun
so
fact.
good.
Dave is also a brown top. Anyway.
So clip it.
The quote last week to end our episode was, know why they call that pea shooter of yours blunderbuss? Because it's impossible to hit anything farther than 15 yards, which is from Rian Johnson's 2012 sci-fi effort, which is such a great movie, Looper. Spoken by Noah Segan, the character Kid Blue. That movie isn't talked about enough in the conversation. It's so good.
It really genuinely isn't. We should totally do an episode on that.
I'd love
that would
it.
be so fun. Maybe we'll do that when we have Noah on.
Yeah.
No, he's going to come on for Blood Relatives.
For sure.
Manifesting.
We're manifesting this.
All right. You ready for the quote this week?
Yes, hit me.
You know something, Yudovich? I think this might be my masterpiece.